Club. And basically, the Culture Club is a place where we can learn and grow, and I can teach you about all different types of parts of the continent of Africa, people groups. We will expand beyond the continent at some point, but right now, those of you who know me, you know I am always for the culture. I'm an Africanist by training. I love to focus specifically on women from the African diaspora, women in the African diaspora. So that will be one of our areas of focus. But today, I actually want to talk to you about and tell you a little story about one of my favorites. He's a favorite of mine. It's a guy, it's a man, and those of you who know African history or anything like that, then you should know who I'm talking about. This is a very renowned um, legend. If you are in any way an Africanist or you've heard, about Mali at all. Now, those of you who are, you know about Mali, or you've heard about Mali, the Empire of Mali. Many of you have heard of like a man named Mansa Musa. And of course, Mansa Musa was known for being so wealthy when he went on Hajj that he dropped the value of gold in the world for 3 years, right? Because he took so much gold with him. He was the first West African king to go on Hajj, which is the holy pilgrimage to Mecca. If you are Muslim, that is the fifth pillar. For those of you who don't know, there are five pillars in Islam, and going on Hajj, if you're able to do so, then that is something that you must do. And of course, someone like Mansa Musa had so much money, so much currency, because there wasn't money at the time. That was the currency at the time, was gold, that he not only took them, but he took 500 enslaved people with him, along with horses and along with all types of provisions. And then he took with him, he showered the people on Hajj with gold. And this actually brought a slew of peoples from East Africa, from the Middle East into West Africa as well. Okay, but before there was a Mansa Musa in Mali, there was the man who was considered to have been the founder of Mali, and his name is Sundiata Keita. Actually, Sundiata Keita. So he's one of my favorite people to learn about, because people think, oh, the Lion King, and they consider it a Southern African fable or Southern African tale. But actually, Sundiata was called the Lion King of Mali. He founded Mali in the mid 13th century, so the mid 1200s. And so I just want to tell you a little story about him. So when you think about Mali or even ancient empires, there were lots of them on the continent of Africa before colonization, obviously. But when you think about the ancient empires, then three of them typically come to mind for West Africa, which are Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Mali is the one that's in the middle. Arguably, it was the most powerful and prominent of the three empires because it lasted for quite some time, but also it stretched far and wide. So Sundiata and Mansa Musa, they were not contemporaries, but they were both kings of the same empire at different times. And under the leadership of Sundiata, the empire of Mali was founded, but under the leadership of Mansa Musa, the empire continued to expand. Okay. When you think about Mali, the empire of Mali is to your right. But when you think about where is it in present day Africa on the continent? Where is it on the continent of Africa? What countries do you think it covers? So if you're looking at the map to the right, and then you're looking at the map to the left, the map to the right is the ancient empire. It's the empire of Mali. When you're looking to the left, it is a current political map of Africa. Now, I'm going to point something out to you in just a moment. But for right now, let's focus on where you think it might be. Let's see if we have any guesses. hmm So yeah, so it encompasses actually present day Mauritania, Mali, some of Niger, and some of Burkina Faso. So when you think about it, it was really, really big. This empire, the Empire of Mali controlled. There was a northwest movement of currency, a northwest movement, and to the north was in North Africa, and in the south was West Africa. Okay, and this was called the salt gold trade. The reason why the salt gold trade was needed was because West Africa can get really, really hot. And in that time, the 12th century and prior to that, 13th century and prior to that, then West Africa was salt poor. But the body needs salt. The body doesn't need to have an exorbitant amount of salt, but the body does need to have salt. And it can get very hot in West Africa, right? Especially in the summer months. So, what is your body going to do in the summer months? In West Africa is going to do what? Sweat, right? And when you sweat or when you cry, what comes out of your body? Salt, right? Exactly. So when it's time to replenish your body with that, then West Africa actually did not have salt. They did not have an abundance of salt. Salt had to be traded with them across the Sahara. Sahara or Sahara means desert. It was named that by the Arabs when they were taking over North Africa. And so they would trade across the Sahara because the North Africa was able to trade their salt for the gold that was in West Africa. And it used to be at a point where it was gram for gram. Salt for gold was gram for gram. Over time, once you had the Empire of Ghana, which was the first of the major West African empires, the Empire of Ghana, the king began to actually see how valuable gold was and how much people wanted it. So he began to attach a greater value. This is how empires expand, societies expand. So he began to control how gold was concentrated. And so Mali actually was birthed out of the Empire of Ghana. So when Ghana gains control, then they control what we call the salt gold trade. And if you could control the gold trade, then there were taxes on that trade. You could control the routes. There were taxes in and out of that empire. And so it was a very, very wealthy empire. I just want to make sure we are extremely clear. This was a gold heavy, filthy rich empire, which is why, fast forward to the 14th century, Mansa Musa could take so much gold on Hajj because he was filthy rich in it. As a matter of fact, they used to say, legend has it that there was so much gold in these empires that there was like the sand on the ground. It was so much of it. And so Sundiata was the child of his father's second wife. His father's second wife was Sogalan Kande, and Sogalan Kande was known for not being the prettiest woman. My gosh, she was actually called a hunchback, and it's because his father received a prophecy. He was born into a noble family, so he would have been, in line should something have happened to the brothers of his father's first wife for chiefdom. And so his father received a prophecy that said, essentially, if you marry an ugly woman, then you will produce a great man. So he found the ugliest woman he could find for his second wife. And he married her. And so she was called all kinds of names. It was believed that she was deformed. And so he married this woman called Sogalon Kande, and they produced a son, and that son's name was Sundiata. Now, the biggest thing about Sundiata that people did not know is that this young man did not walk until he was 7 years old. Now, could you imagine? All of your little friends, everybody in your friend group can walk when they're 1 and 2, and this child is considered lame and in some instances useless. He's made fun of. Nobody's talking to him. They making fun of his mama. Nobody's talking to her. And it's very secluded, but there was still, as legend has it, right? Because this is an epic, which means that there is a journey, and then at the end, there's going to be a happy time, a win, right? A great victory. And so, um, no, he was essentially considered an outcast, but nevertheless, there was a promise from this prophet that was on his life, even as a young child. So what happens? His dad dies. And there was this great sorcerer. Well, actually, before the sorcerer comes, let me get that straight. So his dad dies, and his father's first wife gets her son elevated to the status of king. Okay, or chief. And so they cast him out. They cast Sundiata out. So by this time he's like 17 or so. They cast him out of the kingdom and he has to run away. Does this movie sound, it sounds like another movie, right? When it's like run away, Mufa, run away, Simba, and never return. That was kind of that, like that. Run away, Sundiata, and never return, right? And so the people were just fine. They forgot all about Sundiata. This, big brother is over here, leading the kingdom until there was a great sorcerer, Samanguro Kante. And so he essentially took over at that time Ghana, and he was impressing upon the area where Sundiata's family lived, and the kingdom would have been. So at that time, his brother is not able to defeat the sorcerer. And then legend has it that the people remembered in that time when they were in their greatest need, they remembered Sundiata. So what was happening with Sundiata when he was an outcast? Lo and behold, doesn't it sound a lot like what was happening with Simba? Sundiata was growing wiser, he was growing stronger, he grew to be virile, he grew to be brilliant, he grew to be handsome. And not only was he walking on those good lame legs, okay, they had grown strong, and he was a mighty man of valor. Okay. And so they called upon him and they said, Sundiata, we need you. We need you to defend our people against this sorcerer. And so Sundiata, forgot all about all of this, about how the community had treated him. And he stepped into his duty and against this great sorcerer. And there was a battle in 1235 called the Battle of Kirina. And in this battle, Sundiata gathered all of the area troops. So he was able to bring people together that were once divided. He brought together all of the area troops, and they were able to defeat this sorcerer. Interestingly enough, this is what made him the founder of the Empire of Mali. This battle right here is what coined him as the founder of the Empire of Mali. So Sundiata is more than just this name, and this idea of a Lion King is more than just a name that, from the Disney movie, is more than Hakuna Matata. There is a West African king who is often called the Lion King, and it is based on this epic called Sundiata. Everybody from Mali, present day Mali, everybody from present day Mali knows about this man. As a matter of fact, most of the people from Mali believe that they are descendants of Sundiata. Why? Because he founded the Empire of Mali. So if he founded the Empire of Mali, why would they not? And they are from Mali, why would they not have descent from him, right? So you have most of the people from the country of Mali saying that they are descendants of Sundiata. Now, how is this story told over and over again? It is actually told by a specific group of people called the griots. Griots. And I'd like to think if I believed in a previous life that, and I don't, let's just get that real clear. But should I have believed in a previous life that I would have been a griot? I love being able to tell stories, and griots in this part of West Africa and in several West African countries were and continue to be the repositories of information. They are walking, living, breathing historians. They are essentially the history books of a family or a community or even an entire country. So all the griots know this massive epic of Sundiata. And if you want to know more, you can grab one of the epics. It's a very short read called Sundiata, the Lion King of Mali. Or I believe, uh, yeah, I'm very sure. There are YouTube videos for you to look at. Sundiata Keita was the Lion King of Mali, the founder of the Empire of Mali. And if there were no Sundiata, there would have been no Mansa Musa. I hope you've enjoyed our Culture Club discussion today. And what I'd like for you to do, especially if you're one of our young people, okay, I want you for next week's Culture Club, I want you to find out something major or something great about someone in your family. It could be your grandparent, it could be your uncle, your aunt. Happy Father's Day, by the way. It could be your dad, whomever. And I want you to try to be their storyteller. Tell it like a griot. Once upon a time in a faraway place, there lived, fill in the blank. So we could say that about Sundiata. Once upon a time in an empire called Mali, there was there lived a great king who didn't know he was called to be king. So I want you to try to see how you can be a walking repository of information for one thing in your family and be ready to share it out on the Culture Club next week. I thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Take care, everybody. Have a great Father's Day. Bye.